Thanks, Lars. Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'll just share my screen just so we've got some nice pictures rather than my face. Right, hopefully I've shared the right screen there. I lost my Teams, my Zoom window there. Can everyone see the presentation? Just so I can check out. You should see a shrew rather than me. Okay, good.
Correct.
Great. So, as Laura says, I'm Matt. I'm from the Mammal Society. So, for those of you that don't know who we are, we've been going for about 70 years, and we're a UK conservation organisation devoted to the promotion and support of mammal conservation across the British Isles. So I'm kind of here with one message really, which I'm just going to say in a number of ways, which is don't forget mammals in the City Nature Challenge. So um, going out and exploring the wildlife in the ecosystem is obviously something that anyone can do, and you can go without much planning, and you can go out and see what's there, record, and submit your findings. With mammals, it takes a little bit more effort, which is why I just wanted to kind of come on today and just explain a little bit of the why it's important, but also the how you can get people to consider mammals and to include them in their biodiversity recording later this year. So first of all, on that why mammals question, so mammals are very much in the more at-risk wildlife of the UK. The State of Nature report showed that we're in danger of losing 1 in 4 of our native mammals, terrestrial mammals, from the UK. So local extinction threatens quite a large proportion of our mammal populations. They're among our most iconic species. If you talk about wildlife, a lot of people will be instantly drawn to consider a mammal, whether it's a seal or a badger or a fox. But actually, they're not the wildlife that people encounter that often in their daily life. So they can also quite easily be forgotten or considered to be, maybe the kind of thing that you see when you go to a wildlife centre, but not the kind of thing that you expect to see when you go out on a walk. And of course, that's because they're very elusive. They're largely nocturnal, and a lot of the time they're actively trying to hide from you rather than crossing your path. So people's experience of mammals is likely to be, the urban fox and grey squirrels, but not so much on a day-to-day basis. Some of the small mammals that populate our local ecosystem, the marine mammals, bats, and so on. But they are really, really important, and they can be monitored. So in communicating to people why we should consider mammals, I think, so what have mammals ever done for us? Why are they important? And of course, you're likely to be talking to an audience of nature lovers who will consider them to be important because they are precious wildlife. But actually, they also play this really integral role in ecosystems. Mammals are taking these kind of linchpin positions in ecosystems as both predators and prey, often pollinators, pest control, seed dispersal, and in some cases, landscape engineers. And so they do play this really, really important role. And if they do encounter issues and disappear from our landscapes, it's a huge knock-on impact on the wider ecosystem. So it is really important that we do gather data. And it's also really important that we actually get that data because mammals are, as well as being, not so much encountered as some other wildlife, they are, as a result, very under-recorded. We lack good data on mammals. So we're always, Mammal Society, one of our main objectives is to try and get more people to monitor mammals in their local landscapes, to understand how to do that, and to get out regularly, either as a member of a local group or just individually and take part in our surveys. Because without that data, we can't inform policy, we can't inform decisions around landscape management and use, and we can't inform conservation. So data on mammals is much needed. And if the City Nature Challenge helped to get people to understand how they can gather that data and to maybe get quite a lot of good data that weekend, that would be a real help for us. So as I keep on saying, the issue is that they are quite tricky to monitor. Tied to the fact that they're quite elusive is the fact that they're also quite vulnerable. So there don't tend to be as many mammals in an ecosystem as, for example, insects and the plants that are featuring there. And as a result, if there is an issue, you can have quite a drastic change in an ecosystem quite quickly. You know, if a problem occurs, I mean, red squirrels, for example, if a squirrel pox comes to an area with red squirrels, those red squirrels, that entire population can just be lost, you know, in a matter of weeks. And it's not dissimilar if you have a problem that might affect, for example, pygmy shrews or moles, that a whole population could be lost because it's not a huge number of individuals and they're slower to breed, and they might not be, you know, eyes on the problems that they're facing. So with that in mind, the Mammal Society has its own app. I know that the City Nature Challenge uses iNaturalist and Seek by iNaturalist, which are really accessible citizen science apps for a project like this. We do have Mammal Mapper, which works on a similar basis. It's there to enable people to just record the mammal observations that they make. On ad hoc sightings, it works in a very similar way to iNaturalist, except for instead of having your observation uploaded into a platform where you can share it and where people can see it and where you can have a kind of crowdsourced approach to verifying it, it gets funneled through to iRecord, where it's verified by our mammal verifiers, and then goes into the NBN database, the Biodiversity Network database. But the idea is that Mammal Mapper just makes it as easy as possible to record mammals specifically. So the way that you have to enter the data, whether you've taken a photo or whether you've just seen something and you don't have a photo of it, you can still just record all the details about your sighting that are most useful for science. And it also has a mammal ID guide in there, which doesn't just kind of take you through, you know, all the mammals. It gives you the signs, what the footprints look like, what the dung looks like, and so on, to help you kind of make an ID of something that you've seen, or verify and check for yourself before you actually submit it. So for people to have Mammal Mapper in their pockets alongside iNaturalist and Seek, you know, would allow them to just submit records or check that mammal ID guide. And just ensure that those mammal records go where they're most needed. But we'll also be able to, you know, draw on the data that comes in via iNaturalist. That goes into iRecord as well when it's verified and goes through into the NBN as well, that route. And that's the most important thing. We don't keep Mammal Mapper data in one place and use it ourselves and you know, sell it or anything like that. It's all just meant to be channeling more and more people through to submitting mammal records so that they can be used to fuel conservation. So as I said, that's the kind of data flow that we use, and it's quite similar to iNaturalist now that it's connected to iRecord. So what we're really keen to do is encourage people to think creatively about how they can include mammals in what they're monitoring over the City Nature Challenge. And that does mean doing more than just going out with your phone and seeing what you can see. Takes a little bit more planning, might take a little bit of skills training in the lead up to and through City Nature Challenge. And the Mammal Society runs a lot of training courses. So there's a tiny URL there which goes to our Eventbrite listings. We also have videos of previously run online trainings on things like mammal tracks and signs that are available on request. But there's live trainings happening around the country all year round. So if anyone's kind of interested in building up their skills around mammal monitoring, we can help with that in advance of the challenge. So the first and most obvious one is if you're not going to see the mammals themselves, you're not going to see the animals, how can you recognize where they've been? So looking, being able to identify which droppings you found or what footprint is what can enable you to record something and say, well, it was definitely there, definitely visited last night or over the last few days. Poo is obviously very helpful. All animals do them and leave them behind. So we have an ID guide on our website, which will be improved very shortly in time for the City Nature Challenge, called Who's Poo, which just helps you to kind of just cross-reference what you found with lots of lovely pictures of poo, and to really dive into the detail of what to look for to be sure that you're actually recording the right wildlife. And And then in terms of footprints, seeing them where they've just appeared in a patch of mud is all very well, but that might not happen. But what you can do, and what we'd love people to do more, is put out footprint tunnels. These were designed specifically to check for hedgehogs, but they actually work for mustelids and other mammals. And you can get small ones for small mammals, and you can put one of each out. If you are looking for hedgehogs and stoats and weasels and so on, you'd probably bait it with cat food or dog food. But if you put a little one out for small mammals, you can put insect larvae in there, or you can put grains in there and check for mice and voles and so on. But the key thing is you put out your footprint trap, so you have some ink, charcoal, natural charcoal ink, that they tread in on the way in or the way out, and then they leave their footprints on the paper that you put at either end. And we've got some really lovely FSC footprint guides that can help people to identify what they've seen that has visited. Live trapping, we probably wouldn't recommend for the City Nature Challenge, but if people, it tends to be how ecologists will actually check for absolute certain which mammals are in the ecosystem. And if you do know what you're doing, and if you get some support and the right equipment, and follow the right guidance, then obviously you can actually take a picture of the mammal that you have found and be absolutely sure which one is actually in that ecosystem. Camera traps, though, are really good. They're so much more affordable than they used to be. It would be fantastic if people put camera traps out. Obviously, for a start, it means that they can be out there overnight, which is when the mammals are actually active. And so they snap the pictures that you're not up to snap, and then you can record them in the morning. So that's a badger that visited the local school where I set a camera trap up for the kids a weekend last year. So camera traps are available to hire from various places or loan. The Mammal Society can provide some. We obviously haven't got a huge number to be sending all the way around the country, but often there'll be places nearby where people have them and they're just not using them. And it's a really good way of just increasing the variety of wildlife that you're monitoring. And then there's audio as well, so bat monitors. Increasingly, these in the little insert there, the little circle, that's an audio moth, which is actually a passive audio monitor. So it records all the audio all of the time, and then it relies on an AI program to basically sort out what it's heard. But the good thing about that is you can put it in a hedgerow, you can put it in your garden. And it won't just be looking out for bats, it will be listening out for anything, and you can pick up small mammals, birds, and other wildlife at the same time. And then increasingly, this probably is not so used for a BioBlitz like City Nature Challenge, but we're doing a lot around owl pellet dissection because we can't see and find the small mammals. Sometimes they really leave no trace. But owls are extremely good at finding them for their dinner. And so when they bring up an owl pellet with all the bones and fur and leave them wherever they've been roosting, we're getting people to send them in to us from around the UK, and then we're sending them out to volunteers who are pulling them apart and finding out what bones are inside. And that tells us that those small mammals, in that case, this is a vole, that small mammal is in the ecosystem where that owl hunted. So that's another way that we can get insight into what's in the ecosystem. And we've got a really, really detailed guide to help people to actually make a positive ID from the bones that they find. So we've got local mammal groups all around the country who I'm hoping, wherever they fall into the catchment of a City Nature Challenge participating city, will get involved in the City Nature Challenge, but they can also potentially offer support for individuals who are less confident at recognizing mammal signs or on some of those techniques that I've gone through. So the local groups could be a really useful resource for the City Nature Challenge, and I'm happy to link up organisers with local groups in your area to support BioBlitzes. Sorry, Loz? Oh, that wasn't Loz. Yeah. Sorry. And I just wanted to highlight that Mammal Week, National Mammal Week 2024, is in April as well, and it kind of kicks off the week before the City Nature Challenge. And I think the City Nature Challenge starts on the Friday of Mammal Week. Is that right? I'm looking for a nod. Yes, I think
Yeah,
that's what it did.
yeah. I
So the
think it's
last weekend is actually an overlap, which would be really great. So we'll be encouraging our local groups and nature lovers all over the country to get out and do whatever they can to record mammals. So there's great kind of synergy there. We're pushing mammal recording throughout that week and into City Nature Challenge, and we're getting schools, universities involved. Then it's a really good way, hopefully, to boost some wildlife observations that might not otherwise be coming in to the City Nature Challenge as well. So I think that's it from me. So I'll hand back over, and I'm happy to answer any questions when we come to it.
absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. We think we do have questions. I might, if we do questions all at the end, in case there's some like overlap, that would be amazing. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And over to you, Ben.
Thank you, Loz. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see that okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Hi, everybody, and thank you, Loz, for inviting me in today. I'm really excited about the City Nature Challenge. It's not something I've been involved with before. I've heard about it before, and definitely would be keen to get involved with it in the future. It's got a few slides about what we do at the Rockpool Project when it comes to collecting data on marine species, and I'm hoping that it'll be relevant to any of you guys that are interested in doing some marine data collection as part of the upcoming City Nature Challenge. And yeah, please feel free to ask any sort of questions, and I'll try my best to answer them in terms of how it can actually relate to the City Nature Challenge. Okay, so yeah, we're the Rockpool Project. We're a not-for-profit community interest company. We've been running for 6 years now, and we're basically a team of staff and volunteers, about 60 of us in total. We're a wide range of skills and interests, but we're all brought together by a shared love of the rocky shore, intertidal wildlife, and of course, rock pools. We are mainly based in Plymouth and Falmouth. We have a hub in both of those two locations. And we have just recently completed a big lottery-funded project called Blue Recovery, which really established our communities in those two locations. And that was based around monthly beach events where we would get local members of the community together. We would have tailored activities for families or for citizen scientists. So that was older children and adults. And we basically developed our approaches to collecting wildlife together across the 2 years. And we found an awful lot of cool stuff. So here are just 9 of the species that we found, and you can give enough to give you a sort of flavour of the diversity of stuff that we find when we're out rock pooling. Hopefully a few of you have been rock pooling in the past. I know a lot of people automatically say, oh, I did it as a kid and haven't done it since. Well, we've got plenty of big kids in that case involved in the project, and we just never stop. There's a huge amount of stuff out there. And there's also real benefits of, I mean, I don't need to speak to you guys about the benefits of connecting to nature, and you'll all be aware that there is nowadays quite a large body of evidence to support that. We, as part of our project, we actually did some before and after surveys before and after our beach events, and we demonstrated specifically the benefit of getting out there and rock pooling, and people on the whole, reported a significant increase in their well-being after taking part in a rock pooling event, which was great to see. And people really got into it. So this is probably the biggest success story of the project. This is what's called a rainbow sea slug, and it was found by this lady, Vicky Barlow, who was a new volunteer to our project. And it was the first time that it had ever been recorded on the mainland in the UK. Absolutely stunning species. And it received a heck of a lot of attention, not just in this country, but worldwide. I think partly off the back of Vicky's amazing pictures of it. And Vicky, when she joined the project, she had never really been rock crawling before herself, and so part of the project was to teach people like Vicky not just about the wildlife, but how to find them as well. And that's basically the ethos for the whole of the rock pool project. We like to take people who've got interest in nature, get them involved in rock crawling, but as well as getting them to upload data. And we used to use our own upload system, but we also use iNaturalist now. We don't like that to be the end of the process. We like to feedback on what people have found. So we automatically, when somebody submits a survey to us via our old system, we would actually generate a PDF report which would be emailed to them, which would give them information about what they found, how significant it is in terms of like, has it been found in the country before? Has it been found locally before? Is it the first time they found it? That kind of thing. And we think this is really important in terms of ongoing data collection, is to make sure that there is that loop and feedback and co-development of what we do. So since we've been collecting data, so we started collecting data in 2019, we started off with from absolute scratch. We had no funding at all at the beginning, and we basically just mainly relied on volunteers to get out there and collect data for us, and it's been pretty successful. So we are increasing really the rate that we're collecting data from of marine wildlife. Most of this will be in Falmouth and Plymouth, but we have actually asked people to collect data from further afield. So we have records from as far away from us as Scotland as well. We haven't gone international yet. But that's all going well, and part of the reason why we're able to sort of maintain that momentum in terms of collecting data is that there's just so much out there. So even though we've collected over 15,000 records, we're still finding new species, and we're up to this is a little bit out of date because we've got some additional data. Well, this doesn't include all the recent data which we've collected via iNaturalist actually. So we're definitely over 400 species and counting. So it goes to show there's a lot out there, and I should imagine from your guys' point of view in terms of the City Nature Challenge, it could represent a good opportunity for any cities which do have coastline associated with them to increase the number of species found quite easily, really, during the challenge. The other big thing that I've got coming soon here, but this is something we're actually pressing forward with, and we've developed quite extensively, really, is our rock pool viability battles. And basically, these are not dissimilar to what the City Nature Challenge is in terms of, as far as I'm reading on the website, it's kind of a competition between cities in terms of the most records and the most species. The way that we sort of take it a step further is that we get people into teams, so teams compete with each other, and they're not just competing for the number of species they find. Each species has a different score based on how common or rare it is, and this really sort of ups the ante in terms of people's enjoyment of the activity, because all of a sudden people are paying a lot of attention to a lot of the more obscure stuff, which often can be quite common, but it's because it's rarely recorded, it tends to score quite highly. So it's been very effective in terms of marine data collection. And just whilst I was listening to the start of the meeting there, it occurred to me that I should probably show you guys the data that was collected. Let me just see if I can do that on our iNaturalist project for one of these events. Here it is. Let me just change my share. So there. Yeah, can you see this the map here from iNaturalist? I think Loz is nodding. Thank you. So this is just one iNaturalist project. So we base the game on iNaturalist projects, and this is an umbrella project for those of you familiar with iNaturalist, which actually collates the data collected by 3 separate teams. So these guys here, in total, we've got about 30 people split into 3 teams, and they collected data in Falmouth, this was, for just an hour. And you can see the amount of data that was collected in that short period of time. These guys went sort of crazy looking for stuff, basically. So nearly 300 observations and 111 species in 1 hour. So it did seem to be a pretty, well, it is a very effective way of collecting marine data. The other thing I realised when I was listening earlier is that there are some specifics when it comes to marine data collection, which I suppose we kind of take for granted in terms of we do this stuff all the time. Things like the tide. So when it comes to exploring rock pools, you need the tide to be out. And because you can walk up to rock pools when the tide's out, it is a very easy way for people to record marine species. But people don't necessarily appreciate that you have to go when the tide's out. So that's an important thing to communicate to people. The other thing is, if you're using iNaturalist, we use iNaturalist. It's not unheard of by any means for people to drop their telephones into rock pools, and the people are not particularly happy with that. There are potentially ways around that, and the best way that we found are these things here. So you can get like small dry bag things for telephones, but they're pretty rubbish in terms of actually using them once they're in them, basically. Whereas these things, they kind of, I can show my phone here, you can just wrap the corners around the edge of them like that. They cost about sort of £8 off Amazon. So something that might be worth if you've got groups going out collecting data from intertidal areas or rock pools, which are likely to happen. It's something that's maybe worth suggesting people getting hold of if they want to protect their phones, but still be able to use them. And there's probably lots of other bits and pieces that I can suggest, so feel free to ask questions, and I'll take them later. I'll just show my last slide. I'll go back to that, so that anybody who wants to contact me via email or Twitter, you're very welcome to. There are my details there.
Amazing. Thank you so much.